I do show 7 p.m. on the official Village Hall Computer Center here. So why don't we get going? Good evening and welcome everybody. Today is May 10, 2021, and this is our main monthly meeting of the Village of Red Oak Village Board. And just a little housekeeping up front. We do need to point out that we are all in virtual/remote locations, and we're handling the meeting through the auspices of Ring Central and under the guidelines of Governor Cuomo's various executive orders, starting with 202.1 that enable us to meet remotely like this. We have notice to the media and our website and our physical doors, so folks can best find the link. It is a regular meeting, and there is parts later on where public comment and public input is welcome. We'll get through our real business first. What I normally do, and I'll do it again tonight, is just to prove the record that we have a quorum here. I take a quick roll call and the clerk can pay attention, but I, Ed Blundell, will submit that I'm here on the screen. Mr. Lang, are you out there?
I am out there.
All right,
yes.
Good to see you. Mr. Kowalczyk.
Yes, I am.
Good. Mr. Noonan.
I am here.
And Ms.
I am
Cowell.
here.
Good, thanks. That's the entire board, so we have more than a quorum. Welcome again to all of you, board members. Sitting here in Village Hall myself to get the best internet strength signal I can get, so that's good. Still a little bit daylight here on May 10th, which is nice to see. Not quite to the summer solstice, but we've got daylight conditions out there. Just to get things rolling, and we'll go to we have some special guests tonight for a presentation we get every May. But what I'd like to do is get a few of our perfunctory tasks out of the way. We did circulate reviewed minutes of the April 12th main meeting and April 29th. A raw form of the April 15th came out that need to be refined and put into more readable format. So that's not done as of tonight. So I would ask that we just review and approve the minutes of April 12 and April 29 for any other additions, alterations, or corrections. We'll do the 15th at a later date when the clerical staff is that apart a little bit and make it flow a little better. So I'd put up a motion that we approve April 12th and April 29 and or ask for any additions, alterations, or corrections. Is there a second?
Second.
Anything people needed or wanted to add? Okay, so we'll call that to vote. I'll vote yes to adopt them. Mr. Kowalczyk, you seconded. You good on a vote?
I am, yes.
And let's see. We would then go to Mr. Noonan.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
And Ms. Carwall.
Yes.
Okay. I'd be remiss to say another thing or two here before we get into the regular business, but tonight, May 10th, will be my Mayor Ed Blundell's last formal village board monthly meeting of my career. We do have a special meeting next Monday, May 17, which will be really dedicated to our sewer project and the apportionment hearings that we are required and will do next Monday, which will be a rather technical meeting, but that's been publicly noticed. And as the board knows, all the user members of the sewer service area have received direct Unfortunately, that'll also be in the format of Ring Central /Zoom. Be interesting. So we're going to have to get some of our admin assistants to help us. It's essentially in the format of a public hearing. So we'll theoretically have a number of guest visitors, and we'll be providing information at that meeting. But tonight is our regular monthly session. What we had scheduled for tonight was at 7 p.m. a public hearing on the fire protection contract. We will waive that and delay it if the board can remind me to come back to it. The reason being, we did issue out the net result of our conversations and our offer and so forth with our notes. We haven't had confirmation back on the final result. So right now, we don't have an actual document to approve. And we'll get that out we'll do a public notice out and get that into the June, as I see it, the June meeting, the monthly meeting of June. So maybe if the clerk can remind me or somebody later on, we'll have to do a separate motion and um, and I'm moving quickly because I mentioned we have some special guests and usually we see them here in the room, but I guess even last year we didn't get that benefit. In May of each year, the Great Red Hook Central School System presents its budget and holds elections for school board members. And they usually take a tour out, meaning the admin folks take a road show out and update us as board members and pick up the Panda connection we have to get as many eyes and ears on the project to get people out to vote. This year, I know I see Bruce Martin, the longstanding financial advisor and business manager for the school. I say it technically, I guess he's the business manager, but he's a whiz with the numbers. And Bruce, maybe if you could tell me or introduce who's with your team, and we'll give you the floor for a bit here.
Sure. And I just want to check, is my audio okay? I'm on phone for audio.
Yes.
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Yep. Okay, beautiful. So I know that I have with us our superintendent, Janet Warden. I believe I also have somewhere out there a representative from the Tivoli Library.
That's me, Wendy Hanson.
Okay.
And Janet usually kicks us off. So if you want
Yeah.
to, if you want us to begin, Janet is there ready to go, I think.
Okay, Janet, sorry, I wasn't seeing you. I see your name, but let's see if.
Can you hear me? Can
There you
hear
are. I got you.
Okay.
I wasn't picking up the video, but there you are. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, congratulations to you and best wishes.
Okay. Yeah.
Moving forward. Can I share my screen or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if
I might have to give you ability to share though. Let's see. Hold on. Let me find you on my list here.
Okay. So I've never used Ring Central, so it's not really showing my screen. So.
Okay. Let me make you a host for a moment, then I'll unhost you. That might make it work for you.
Let's see.
You want to try it now? Do you see it?
It says I have to open my system preferences and go to security and privacy to grant
No,
access.
that's not good.
Okay. Yep, I think I can do it. Okay. I don't know if this is going to work. If not, you're just going to hear from us.
Okay.
We had a plan for that.
Nope, it works. I think I've got enough Zoom meetings down to figure out all this technology now. So thanks again for having us. Appreciate it. Let me see if I can start this from the beginning. Bruce and I are thankful for you to have us. This has definitely been an interesting budget year, as you all know. Moving forward, our principles for our budget development was to be fiscally responsible in great times of uncertainty, and to be under the tax cap. And we will also talk about our COVID relief funds that you've probably heard a lot about. We've learned a lot about education in general in this past year, and we're preparing for our students coming back with many different learning needs. And as we integrate back into school, we're going to be talking a lot about mental health and equity needs, as well as increasing student and community engagement. So our priorities moving forward, obviously, is teaching and learning, number one. We really want to preserve our small class sizes. We've learned a lot of value that they've had this year, and we want to continue to preserve that. We also want to add additional technology, especially at our high school level, which each student will have their own device. We're going to be including more intervention services for our children, and we want to preserve our rigorous course selections. As you know, our high school has some premier courses, not only AP, IB, but inclusion, self-contained. We offer an array of courses for all students. We're going to be joining the Center for Sustainability and Climate Education at BOCES. They're going to have a center that is going to help our students become better advocates and also help our teachers to deliver curriculum around those areas that's up to date. We're also looking at how we can add more project-based learning. That means that students would have more direct control over their learning. And we're also working on interdisciplinary programming at the high school That would mean that teachers outside of their disciplines, so a social studies teacher would be working with, say, an art teacher, to connect those core subjects with other subjects to make learning more authentic for our students. So as you know, you see the beautiful auditorium. Our CO is in. We're going to have a drama production very shortly. If anybody would like to come, send me an email and we'll get you in there. We have some restrictions, but we think we're going to be right within the guidelines to allow people to come and enjoy our first show. With that said, too, we want to bring that into our course offerings at the high school, not only teaching kids theater, but also the back of the house with the lighting, all the things that come with dealing with a theater. So we're also looking to expand our community engagement with the auditorium. Mental health is definitely a priority now, and it will continue to be. We want to preserve all our counselors. But at this point, we do not have social workers at our middle school and high school, and we would like to add those to make sure that our students have the best needs as they come back to school in the fall. We are continuing with our equity, diversity, and inclusivity work with our Center of Equity at BOCES. So again, BOCES is not only going to have a Center for Sustainability and Climate, but they're also going to have a Center for Equity to provide us with ongoing training, but also training for our students as well. And we have a consultant called Educational Elements that is working with us on looking at how that work will be localized into our district. We're also going to expand our communication and community engagement. We have a website that we have some negative feedback at times about. So we're going to be looking to redesign that. And we also are going to have an emphasis on bilingual communication and increasing community engagement. Our after-school activities and sports, we want to include additional intervention supports after school. We want to add a swim team and looking to add some additional clubs based on student interest. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, who's going to talk more about the timeline and the financials.
Thank you. So I will go through some of the details. As you look at this slide, almost all of the dates have gone by, so I will just focus on the last couple that are yet to come. In order to vote at the annual election, you do have to be registered either under the regular general election process through the county or specifically through the school district process. And if you are speaking to someone, or if you are someone who would like to vote on May 18th but is not registered, we do have a voter registration date on May 12th. That will be from noon until 9 o'clock in the evening at the Mill Road 3-5 Elementary School lobby. There was a bit of confusion on our website. It briefly mentioned that there was voter registration on May 11th. So I believe Elena is actually going to run some voter registration in the same location tomorrow as well. But the official voter registration day is this coming Wednesday, May 12th, from noon until 9 p.m. in the Mill Road 3-5 lobby area. And then the statewide budget vote date, all the districts in New York State will be voting on May 18th, the third Tuesday in May. In Red Hook, we will be voting in the Mill Road Elementary School, the 3-5 cafeteria, and that will be from noon until 9 o'clock in the evening. And we will be queuing up outside, letting only a small number of people inside at a time. There will, Elena has a system all lined up in order to try to accommodate even if the weather's a little bit inclement. But that's noon to 9 at the Mill Road Elementary School 3-5 cafeteria for the budget vote. Absentee balloting is also available, and it is possible to get an absentee ballot this year simply because you prefer not to come out in the COVID environment. And you would check the temporary illness box on the application, and Elena will get you an absentee ballot. And we can now go to the next slide. I won't spend an awful lot of time here, but this is the summary version of the budget. The left-hand numerical column is the base year, the 2021 budget. The second column from the right is the budget adopted by the Board of Education for presentation to the voters. And as you can see in the top section, the vast majority of what we do is personnel. and people. So $43.9 million of our total budget goes to staffing. There are a few other highlights there: debt service, BOCES, and then everything else at just over $6 million. Our total budget proposed for the 21-22 years, just over $56 million, with a growth factor there of 1.9%. On the revenue side, I will focus on the non-tax items because the next slide is about taxes. But state aid moving at better than the historical rate of increase at 3.79%. Appropriated fund balance, that's money left over at the end of a fiscal year used the following year to offset taxes, a little higher than usual. We've had two very unusual years, which have been marked by lots and lots of unexpected and unusual expenditures, but also a lot of things not happening. And we've actually generated surpluses in both the 1920 year and the 2021 year. So we'll be able to appropriate a little bit more fund balance into the 21-22 year. Miscellaneous revenues down a little bit, primarily because you can't earn any interest right now on deposits, and we've had to lower that budget. And we had a premium holiday through our health insurance consortium this year. And the accountants want to treat that like a dividend. Actually, what happens is we don't pay our premium for a month, but the accountants want to treat that as a revenue, like it was a dividend. And we're less likely to have that happen for next year. So those two things reduced our miscellaneous revenues a little bit. But all in all, this budget balances out at just over $56 million, or a 1.9% rate of increase. And we can look at the next slide. Specific to property tax, you can see on the screen there the base year number, the proposed number for 21-22 under this budget, the dollar change at just under $538,000, and the percent change at 1.52%. Again, because of the COVID environment, we went out of our way to not just get under the tax cap, but to try to stay substantially under the tax cap. So our tax cap is at 2.02%. We're about 0.5 percentage point below that, which translates into a little bit over $178,000 that this budget would be under the tax cap. The last bullet there is a little disclaimer that just says, even though we know that under this budget, the tax levy would move at 1.52%. That's going to vary property by property and town by town based on how assessments come out, how full values are done in each of the town or not done, equalization rates set by the state, and star changes could all cause individual properties to vary either above or below that 1.52%. But the levy and the average for taxpayers around the Red Hook district would be that 1.52%. And we can go to the next slide. Should the voters not approve the budget next week, the board would have the opportunity to present either the same budget or a modified budget again during June at the statewide budget revote date. If that did not produce a voter-approved budget, then the board would be obligated to adopt a contingent budget for July 1. If the board had to do a contingent budget, that would involve eliminating $538,000. We'd have to close the budget gap by $538,000 and lower the tax levy accordingly. By law, there would be some things that would have to be eliminated. So most equipment purchases would have to be eliminated by law. We would have to eliminate free community use of the building, indoor and outdoor spaces. We hope to be back to relatively normal in the fall, allowing the traditional community usage of our outdoor spaces and our indoor spaces. But under a contingent budget, we would be obligated to charge the appropriate cost of that use to any of the community members using those facilities. The next one is a big one in my mind because it's got a great facility and operations benefit as well as a great fiscal benefit. Every year we transfer $100,000 from the general fund budget over to the capital project fund, and we do a relatively minor maintenance repair facilities improvement like project. And the state turns around and immediately aids us the following year at 64%. So that means you do $100,000 of capital improvement and you get $64,000 back the following year to support the next year's capital improvement project. So this is not possible to do without voter approval. Therefore, it could not be done under a contingent budget. And I see that as a significant disadvantage in a contingent budget. Additionally, we would have to look at program reductions, maybe larger class sizes. We'd have a reduced ability to address what we think will be additional needs of our returning learners. And we would have to probably use down some additional financial resources, which we are currently still thinking it's smart to hold because of the continued uncertainty out there in the environment. There is a lot going on our ballot. There is a board election with 2 seats up for vote. This would actually be the year when we would historically do a single seat. However, we do have an additional vacancy that was created on our board. So there are 2 board seats up that are on the ballot next week. Last year, we took the bus and vehicle proposition off because of the dramatic uncertainty and volatility that was going on related to the beginning of COVID and potential fiscal crises and the like. But that has set us another year further behind on our bus replacement plan. We try to stay on a 10-year replacement plan, and we are a little bit behind on that. So this year we will again go back to a bus and vehicle proposition at $390,000. If this is passed, it would enable us to do 2 full-size buses, a wheelchair van, and a maintenance vehicle. The Tivoli Free Library, who's with us tonight, and I think you'll give them an opportunity to speak for just a minute when Janet and I are done. They are looking for a small increase in their appropriation, and so they are on the ballot. We have a student board member, a non-voting student board member who sits with us at the board table to provide a student perspective. We have had that for quite a few years, but the statute requires that be reapproved by the community every other year, and this is the year that goes on the ballot. And then there is a proposition that the board has been talking about for a couple of years, and that is the question of should we go from a 5-member board to a 7-member board. That will be out for the community to consider. And if that were to be approved, then there would be a special election to fill those 2 additional seats, and that would happen early on during the month of July. In addition to the budget that we've talked about, you've probably heard quite a bit about the federal stimulus packages and the money that's coming in the direction of state and local municipalities, including school districts. We would stress that this money is separate and apart from the general fund. It can't really be used in the general fund. It's intended to be accounted for in what's called the special revenue fund. And there are 2 major pots of money coming our way with relative certainty, but with a lot of remaining questions left around how you're going to apply, what kinds of purposes could these funds be used for, and what kind of hoops and hurdles would we have to jump through to qualify for these funds. Both sets of funding are multiple year funds, but they are also one-time funds. So we have to be careful with how we plan for these funds because they will not be sustainable over a longer term. The 2 pots of money come from the CRRSA funding. That was a stimulus program passed by the federal government back in December to the tune of approximately $2 trillion on a nationwide basis. That is going to produce just under $1.7 million directly to the Red Hook Central School. And that money will be available over the next 2 and a fraction years. It'll be available to us until 2023. And then there is the ARP funding, which was part of the stimulus package done out of Washington in March under the Biden administration. And that again was approximately $2 trillion nationwide, but directs just about under $1.7 million to the Red Hook Central School District. Again, all the same things. We don't know yet what these funds can be used for. We don't know what the application process is going to be. We do know that they are one-time monies. However, they are available over multiple years until September of 2024. And I know Janet and the administrative team have been doing some talking about how this money would benefit our returning learners. And I usually turn it over here for Janet to speak briefly about that and then look at some final thoughts.
Right, and today we received the CRRSA application, couple pages. So we're taking a look at that as well as we're attending webinars because like Bruce said, it's still unclear exactly the areas. So we want to make sure that whatever we put into that, again, if it's not sustainable, most of our budget is staff. Almost all of our budget is staffing. So we just want to really make sure that whatever we put in, is it going to be able to be sustainable? So it will have areas like mental health, learning interventions. That's my first look at it. So we are definitely meeting to say, what are the priorities and what ways can we use this funding wisely? And then again, we are starting our schedules. Every year we start making schedules in April and May for the following year. We will be making what we call normal schedules. We are looking for a 100% reopening. Again, like last year, we didn't really get much of the guidance until July 31st. So we're really pushing that. Hopefully we've got guidance so far for proms and graduations and end of year ceremonies. And we received some guidance for summer. We have not received the guidance for the fall. So we're definitely pushing to get that guidance as soon as possible, but we are looking to open fully, and we are happy that the budget is below the tax cap.
And I would just add, if we look at the last bullet there, this has really been a particularly difficult but interesting budget year because normally the current year and maybe the year before that are really a large part of the template for making up the ensuing year's budget. And both of those years have been very unusual. So they don't serve all that well as a template for the 21-22 budget year. And additionally, it still feels like we're aiming at a target that we can't quite see yet. As Janet said, we'd like to be open in a very much normal situation in the fall. But we're not sure yet what the rules and guidelines and requirements are going to be for us to be able to do that. So if we look at the first bullet there, we think that this budget provides the kind of flexibility that we would need to get to that normal reopening, regardless of what that ends up looking like and what some of the criteria are for us to get there.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing, and if anybody has questions or Tivoli Library wants to go.
Yeah, maybe before the library goes, our custom is usually if any board members had any particular question, we go there first. And let me see if I can make myself the host again. Let's see. Reclaim host. Okay, I think I am the host again, but members of the board in your various remote locations, as you saw the bullets, did you have any particular thoughts or questions or points to make?
I had a question for Bruce. During the shutdown of last year, did you see any savings at all in the budget?
Yes, yep, absolutely. We saw fairly substantial savings. So at the end of last year, we ran a surplus that was actually somewhat above, and when I talk about the surplus and in the fund balance, I'm talking about that unassigned fund balance. There's a a rule at the state education department about maintaining that under 4%. We actually exceeded that last June 30th for the first time in the history of my time in Red Hook. And that was somewhat intentional. I mean, the surplus developed out of the closures that happened last spring. But if you recall, at the time, we were also hearing about huge potential aid cuts during the 2021 school year. So the plan at the time was to maintain that unassigned fund balance to help offset aid reductions that were anticipated for 2021. Those really didn't materialize. And in 2021, we continued to run somewhat of a surplus for this year. So as I said in one of those slides, we think that it makes sense to hold that for a little bit longer, although we would aim to get back in under those required percentages in the near future. We think it makes sense to maintain those a little bit longer in light of the fiscal and regulatory uncertainties that are out there right now.
Thanks, Bruce.
Anybody else from the board? Hey, we usually give, like we said here in person, our thanks to the Red Hook School admin and folks for coming in. Each of us, I think, have either put our kids through Red Hook schools, and I think most of us moved here because of the Red Hook schools. Right now we have myself, my kids are long out of the school, but did really well by being students there. Brent's probably next in line, Charlie, and one of our newest board members, I think her kids might not yet even be in the schools yet, but I think one reason they probably ended up here was to take that goal and get them in there. We can't say enough. We know this is a community-based in so many ways around that school system. It's amazing, the sports and the events and the education that goes on. And so we're with you. We'll hope everybody gets out to vote. And unless anybody else has a question, we let the admin team go from the school, and you can log off, and we'll keep Wendy. Was it Wendy Hansen from the Tivoli Library was on there? If you want to give your pitch there, Wendy, for your piece of the vote that day, you there?
I am. Thanks. Just a few minutes. Hi,
And
everyone.
we are going to jump. We're going to jump as suggested, because we are running to a second meeting this evening. But we would like to thank you all for giving us the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Best
Thank
wishes.
you.
Good luck. Take care.
Okay, Wendy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wendy Hansen. I'm a board member of the Tivoli Free Library. I want to thank you for this opportunity to present the Tivoli Library's request for a modest increase in our tax levy. This increase of $3,500 would cost the average household an additional $1.38 per year, or about 11 cents a month. Last year, in the throes of the pandemic, the Tivoli Library did not request an increase in its funding. However, as the region opens up again, we need to meet the increasing in-person and virtual demands for library services, and also to provide our staff members with fair living wages. Although the Tivoli Library is associated with the school budget vote, it serves all segments of our population. We're very proud of how our library staff pivoted when faced with the pandemic. They nimbly revamped library services to meet what the community needed by providing access to internet and Wi-Fi, circulating laptops to patrons, and creating Wi-Fi hotspots, by adding content and programming to the library's online services, by providing curbside pickup for those who needed it, by making it possible for patrons to get an online library card and use all digital services and downloadable content from home. The library ebook downloads increased by 69%. And finally, by extending due dates and waiving overdue fines during the pandemic's shutdown period. Now, as in-person hours increase, our staff members continue to provide all of these services and more. So we're just asking folks to please vote for proposition number 3 on the school budget vote this year, so the Tivoli Library can continue to successfully serve our community. So those are my comments in a nutshell.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, like we said, the meeting gets broadcast throughout the town through Panda TV 23, so the message can get out via our little piece of the format there. I know we have our own Red Oak Library. They're not here tonight, primarily because they're not going out for that funding increase this year, but Tivoli, they sometimes alternate year to year and so forth.
Yeah.
Any board members have any question for the Tivoli representative of the Tivoli Library? All right. Well, thank you for coming in, and this is a good forum. Our people know more about it now, and we'll get the word out.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, like I said, each year we do that with the school and the libraries to get them a little attention and so forth. Bruce has been doing that pitch for a long time. He's a numbers guy, and he's a good man. The new superintendent, she must have went through a heck of a first year. I think that was her first year coming in. Remember Paul Finch used to pitch to us, and he got out just before the crush there. It's man. But anyway, just a little more housekeeping on our side. Like I mentioned at onset, this will be my last formal meeting. We have the net result of the board's separate selection. We have who I like to call Mayor Select instead of Mayor Elect. Karen Smythe is showing out there in the participants field. She's been roaming around Village Hall with me and Brent and meeting the staff and so forth. We'll talk more about that later, but Karen, welcome if you're out there. And she's not a voting member of the board at this point, but will be shortly. So we're giving her the drill. And like she did an assignment today for us looking at whether or not Governor Cuomo will enable real meetings in June, but I think her determination was, it looks like in effect through June as far as the executive orders to keep remote meeting going. Is that correct? Karen, were you finding that today?
Yeah, thank you, Ed, and hello, everyone. What it appears is that there could be an in-person meeting. It just has to follow all the CDC guidelines of social distance and the like. But yeah, like the executive order for allowing virtual meetings will continue. That's what it's currently through June 5th, but it's expected that will be continued.
All right. Well, welcome. Good to see your face, and we'll go into the regular, more normal part of the business meeting, and we'll get going. When we adopted the minutes, I jumped in quickly because I knew the school folks wanted to get out quickly, but we normally open our in-person meetings with a common pledge to the flag, but I thought tonight we could do our custom of, in the COVID phases, just moment of silence and respect for those that have lost their lives here in the village and around us due to COVID, and in honor and respect of the first responders and medical providers. We'll just pause for a moment of silence in their honor and memory. Okay, we'll head for the real meeting. So we would say department and committee reports. We kick off with the underpinnings of it all, the finances. I see Mr. Toll is out there somewhere, and you should have in your packets the financial treasurer's reports and details and data. So Mr. Toll, you ready to go?
I am. Yes, the account balances as of the end of April 2021 in the general fund, 440 million. 100.
No.
Sorry, 440. What? Thousand? It was million. I'm just saying too many numbers here and dots. Yeah, $440,100.81. You'll notice actually that number is about $100,000 higher than it was at the end of March. And the reason for that is that we received the unpaid village taxes for 2020 from Dutchess County of almost $93,000. And we also received the quarterly sales taxes and the balance of the sales taxes from 2020 from Dutchess County as well for another $21,000. So that made a big difference in terms of where we stood at the end of April. In terms of the water fund, $190,098.34. Trust and agency, $21,102.26. Petty cash remains the same at $24.50. Village Green, $4,502.92. Hard Scrabble, $2,276.85. Health insurance, $1,722.96. The sewer fund, $8,126.28. You'll also notice that the capital projects account has been closed. It was at a $0 balance for some time, so we closed out that account. In terms of the reserve checking balances, the fire department, $5,031.60. Police, $14,580.12. USDA, $133,986.97. Highway, $20,779.63. Snow reserve, $3,279.27. Tower reserve, $17,710.19. Unemployment, $4,543.82. Court reserve, $3,298.36. And the office reserve is at $972.46. In terms of the total monthly expenses for the month of April, in the general fund, it was $167,373.02. The water fund, $80,194.58. Trust and agency, $2,477.40. And sewer, $7,637.01. And that concludes the treasurer's report for the meeting of May 10th, 2021.
Thank you, Ray. I knew we didn't have the COVID savings the school seems to suggest, but I knew when you said that one number was.
Yeah, well, I thought that was a great number.
Yeah,
I just wanted to use it.
We've never seen that. And the
To
good part,
see you off with a really, great
Ray and I
number
have
there.
been-
You deserve it.
we've been monitoring the end of year status, and we still have a little bit more to come in. Ray researched the state AIM money, which is not big. That's like a $9,600 item in our budget, and then the mortgage tax, which I'm kind of curious what that is this year. But oddly, they come in say May 13th and May 28th. They're very, very late in our fiscal year, so there's going to be a little more money to come in. And Ray's hard at work. This is the work we did on the budget now becomes in the form of that horrible word, a tax warrant, and goes off to the county for printing. So I know Ray's hard at work on that, getting that out, getting that not out yet, but prepared and back to us in printed paper format, and then the things we have to do with it here. But he's earning his pay this past several weeks and months here with the budget and the tax preparation. But I would move that we heard the report. I would move that we accept the treasurer's report dated May 10th with balances as of 4/30/2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion, thoughts, questions before we pull it in?
Was that extra revenue factored into the fund balance for the new fiscal year?
Could you say, you broke up a bit, could you say it again, please?
Was this extra revenue that's coming in, was that factored into the fund balance for either the end of this year or for the next fiscal year?
Yeah, it's not an extra, that's not the right adjective, Brent. It's known, we budgeted for the delinquent tax. It's in a normal cycle of things. It's just Ray was presenting what's come in recently and explaining how last month was a lesser balance than this month. But it is in our normal cycle. We tend to get those this time of year. And what we also try to do this time of year is push the admin folks, say Lara, to get the town police billing and the SRO police billing. And so we try to get it in within our fiscal year that we're sitting in. It makes it easier for the audit and the accountants to justify when the revenue came in against the expenses. But yeah, it's nothing we were surprised with more money. I think the surprise was for a lot of us, like all governments, the sales tax, we never knew in March of 2020 what was going to happen, but oddly it held out and actually did quite well. I think people stayed home and spent money versus being out in the open restaurants and shopping malls and stores. But and I think too, the effects of the stimulus packages generated enough income for folks to keep them able to purchase and keep the economy going. So we didn't get hurt too hard there, but we will have shortfall, which we talked about individually. Some of our revenue lines will have flopped because we didn't provide a service, including the school got the benefit of some, with the school resource officer, for instance, we didn't bill as much, so they got the benefit of the savings side, but we got the negative of the lack of revenue side. So when the American Rescue Plan comes out, those are the things we'll have to tag and look at and total them up to see where there definitely were shortfalls. We didn't do better. It's so we'll have to look at that. But you can pick up the numbers if you look at the gross budget percentages and so forth. But anyway, we have a motion, a second on the Treasurer's report. Any other thoughts, questions? I would call to vote to adopt it. Blundell votes yes. Noonan?
Yes.
Walchik?
Yes.
Lang?
Yes.
Jarwal?
Yes.
Thank you. I will go next, it looks like. In my set of topics here, we have police report, which should be out with you in your packets too for the month of April 2021. The numbers always look fairly consistent. Incidents were 371. The breakout there is 282 in the village, 85 in the town, and 4 in the village of Tivoli. There were 39 traffic tickets written. Sounds a little lighter than normal. Breakout is 19 in the village of Red Hook, included 2 parking tickets, and 18 were in the town of Red Hook. Arrests were a single number digit of 1, and that was in the town of Red Hook. Details of the activities are attached to the board members' reports.
And then, do you have any details on the status of the new vehicle that have been ordered? And
Yeah, it's been purchase ordered. We did advise them that we don't want to take delivery until the new fiscal year kicks in, and we don't want to execute the funding bond until that point in time too, so we get the benefit of that 1 year before the first payment is due. But yeah, it's been the initial letter of intent to proceed and the purchase order are out there, and they're like all our other vehicles that we ordered, it always seems to take longer, but this one, so far as we know, it's not in the netherworld of COVID delivery issues. So yes, to answer your question. We'll talk briefly about personnel. We put out front our roadside sign in a new mission so we could solicit some part-time highway laborers in a seasonal fashion. We had a couple applicants we're looking at, but quite it's not a heck of a lot of interest in working in the village for doing some outside work for the summer months. But like I said, what we generally do is we use Duchess format for application, and we'll review them further. But Dan would love to get some help and get some people going there. Just for the board, these are not civil service in the sense they're not test level, they're considered labor and part-time on top of that, so we don't have to go to any specialty lists or anything. Let's see.
Hey, Ed.
Yes.
Ed, is there any outreach to high school for those kinds of positions?
Not that I think Dan put something up, kind of ironically. He's not a mom and he lives in Reading. I think he put something up on Reading Moms originally somehow, which maybe actually, but nothing that I know. We didn't do anything on an internal high school thing. Maybe if there is such a thing, we could figure it out next day or two. But I thought the roadside sign would be a big draw. I know one interested person is a college person returning home shortly, so we'll see if Dan wants to meet them and talk to them. Yeah, I guess we could do, since Will started to speak, we'll put the burden on you. You want to check in on an update with planning and zoning reports?
Sure.
Veterans Affairs, we could talk about a bit. We have Memorial Day coming up shortly. And then fill us in on a few things.
Okay. So the building permits issued were 12 during the month. So there were no certificates of occupancy issued. Certificates of compliance, there were 9. Municipal searches, 8. Orders to remedy, stop work orders, or court appearances. Fire inspections were 35. There's a parentheses chocolate factory, and 10 parentheses Bayrite properties. There were no complaints. That's all. Planning board met on April and reviewed applications for 4 properties. The zoning board of appeals, they met on April 22nd for a variance on 28 Prince Street, and that was tabled to May 22nd. And that's all I have. I don't have the financial breakdown.
I have that, Will, if you want.
Okay.
Each member should have it, but the gross number of the various inspections and permits was $2,350. Just knowing what I know, that would not reflect any billing to the 2 big fire inspection locations. That'd be, there's no way that's in there yet. It looks like inspections are probably pending billing out there. Is that correct, Lara?
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, while we have you on, a segue might be with May, and something we were touching on with Karen Smith before. The governor's talking about May 19th and certain further openings, quote unquote. I haven't heard just where the VFW stands with the annual Memorial Day parade, but I don't know if anybody else has. Will, have you heard anything from?
I haven't heard anything, no. I can reach out.
Yeah. It's usually between the current commander and Bill Moore. We usually hear something. They usually drop off a poster and ask us to participate as a board, march, and different things. And the mayor at the time is a keynote entry speaker, always fun. You get to march and then out and get things going. It's always a really poignant, wonderful day. The VFW does a great job. The fact that we haven't anything yet makes me wonder.
Ed,
Yes. Yeah.
just to let you know, I actually did run into Brian Williams.
Okay.
What he told me, not doing a parade,
Okay.
and he did ask if I would speak because he knew that I would be mayor at that point.
Cool. So have a little ceremony at the site, at the park,
at the
whole
Memorial Park. Yes,
Good.
that is my understanding, and I had a brief conversation with Bill Moore as well.
Okay, well, that's really good. So, yeah, I think it's usually. Did they give you a time just so people can hear the time or anything?
11 a.m.
Okay. And
rain or shine.
Yeah, and I know I'm looking for a big calendar here. Is that
Monday, the 31st.
Monday itself? Okay. Yeah, so it's our board is used to the parade and the end game, and usually we used to wander over to the VFW for some pretty good hot dogs.
I believe they will still have hot dogs available, if I understood correctly, but it sounds like they normally do a flyer.
Yeah, we normally see something that you put up on a bulletin board type thing, but well, what's it, 2 weeks out or a little bit of that? Well, good. So it is happening. happening. Our highway guys do is we'll remind them, pick it up on their own, but they usually make the park look extra beautiful and all that. And we usually assign our police car and just to give a little traffic, even though there's no parade, something to keep cars a little safe on Route 9 there in front of the park. But we can talk about in our next debriefing meeting. And then, thank you, Karen.
Great.
Let's see, Will, in your part of the report, as I touched on earlier with the removal of the public hearing tonight, we did send off the position paper for the fire contract. And we're waiting to hear back from the fire company.
All right.
Maybe we'll jump. Usually we let Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk go last. So that being the case, we'll put Trustee Lang up and then Trustee Charball can get on deck. And so Charlie, you out there and you ready to go?
I am still out there.
Okay.
And so with these new responsibilities on reporting on materials management, that's pretty exciting stuff. I hope I do it correctly.
Oh.
I populated that spreadsheet
Okay.
with April's numbers, so I'll just read them to you. So
Sure.
we had 1.16 tons of commingled, 0.3 tons of cardboard, 1.03 tons of paper for 2.49 tons of total recycling in the month of April. And we had 6.75 tons of regular old garbage. And we sold $1,572 worth of tags for the month. So, I mean, that's a little bit down on last year, and I think the numbers, by the looks of them, with one more month to go, will be slightly down from last year, but these are not regular times, so I don't know if we're looking at a trend or it's just impacts from COVID and changed situations all over.
Yeah. When you say numbers down, you mean the tag sale revenue number?
Yeah, I mean, the tag sale revenue really goes up and down month to month. So, I mean, last year, April's tag sales were over $4,000, but I mean, over the course of the year, we're only going to be probably down a couple of $1,000s on last year's tag sales. So, I mean, it's not a huge decrease.
Yeah, and for those watching on Panda that are customers, we have the 10-for-1 deal where if you buy 10 tags, you get one free, and you got to pitch that.
Yes,
and
yes,
then,
sorry, yes, in bulk. You know.
And then I know, newer board members were looking at composting and so forth options again, and we'll see what can shake out in that
Right,
world.
and tell your neighbors who are not using the village service to just buck up and use the village service because you know it makes sense.
That's good slogan.
There you go.
Charlie, can you send me a copy of your report for that,
I will.
please?
I'll send you a copy of the updated spreadsheet.
Thank you.
So you.
And you'll circulate it, Lara?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that sounds like something I should do before the meeting.
Yeah, prior to the meeting. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, noted.
Okay, good. Let's see, what else we got there from Mr. Charles?
Well, I have a nice water treatment facilities monthly report that I can go through. So
Do that first, and I'll insert something too. Okay, I'm ready for that. You ready?
I am ready.
Good.
For the month of April, the water treatment facility treated 6,758,000 gallons, which is an average of 225,300 gallons per day. Here's our little chart. It's all back to front and sort of mirror image, but the message is good. We're back down to what looks like a sustained, between 200 and 250,000 gallons a day level, thanks to relatively recent repairs and fixes to the system. So that's good news. And then we had 4 bacteriological holes. That's the 3 in addition to the one new one that we're doing at the new the development. And they all came back absent for coliform and E. coli, so that's excellent news. And then for the month of April, the water treatment plant used 60 gallons of sodium hypochlorite. So that comes to an average daily use of 2 gallons per day. So all normal and looking pretty good on the waterfront.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, at about 6 o'clock, 6:30 tonight, I was finishing up. Highway Foreman Dan called, which, like I always tell you guys jokingly, not always a good thing, but this one was okay. He got very last minute notice. We had reached out to get a ground penetrating radar firm in here to help us isolate or locate some buried water main valves in and around the main Route 9 intersection, and then some other areas in and around the village. So if you see some action tomorrow, it's a company, I forget their name to be honest with you, but we had lined them up a long time ago. I guess they finally cleared their calendar to get here last minute to Dan today, which he got the word to me. I did remind him too to look in and around the old CVS. Remember we had some indication that there's possibly a service line in there that was making some noise that apparently dead end doesn't feed anything. So he's going to put that on his list too. But so you might see some action out there. Then I did find in my mailbox, we're working with Delaware Engineering to get that standard operating procedure, sort of a, I like to call it a warboard, something with flushing and valve exercising and different tasks the water area should be doing. It doesn't look like it's the full and final version of it, Brent, but we could look at that Friday. And I think it's actually something you might have walked over. It was, to me, it's kind of a draft version of it, and we'll have to just remind them where the final version is. I did notice, reviewing the vouchers today, we did agree to put them on as consultants on that regard. So we got to get our money there. I see a chat from Melcorca. Did we lose Lara? Lara, are you out there?
Oh, yep, she's back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Our IT specialist, Melcorca, picked on up that you were gone for a minute. So
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's plugged in, but everything went away.
sometimes that's what the internet. Anyway, so anyway, we're talking about a few things in water. Charlie, let's see. I lost my agenda sheet here. I know we're also working on, Charlie has a little energy / sustainability hat he wears. Also tonight around that same time, the town supervisor called. They're looking at trying to help us, so to speak, get a level 2 EV charging station in our village municipal lot. As you all know, we have a level 1 that we got through grant funding with DEC many moons ago, where we had to do a 20% share, which we did with the benefit and workforce from our highway department. But this is a little more expensive in that you have to get 3-phase down from the pole. It's a quicker charging system. The nut is about $111,000, and the problem is the grants are reimbursement grants. And I told the town, hey, we don't have that kind of money laying around. And so they're looking at, I told them we'll talk later in the week with the incoming mayor and myself, and if Charlie wants to be in, I don't know what days you might be around, but it's we can't all 3 be in the room, but I guess that's not true. Karen's not actually assigned formal official position at this point. I think it's worth doing, but the format, I told him we'd probably only want to give up two parking positions instead of 4, because a lot of people use that lot. We use it to support our businesses, as far as if you're eating at a restaurant,
right,
whether it be Taste Buds or Flatiron or whatever Chinese restaurant, anything walkable. It's one of our goals. So we don't want to overpopulate with too many EV stations. But the question is, what's the right number? I don't know. We'll answer that.
Right. Ed, has there been talk? I mean, would the town be looking to put in their own fast charging station behind the town hall, or would we?
I think they're moving. To be honest, Charlie, I'm not sure. I think they're doing that, but they want to get one more in the village center, which makes sense. Like I said, the hesitancy for me, we just don't have. We could do 20% of the old number, which was, I think, the level ones. They were not hugely expensive. It was like $13,000, $18,000, something like that. We used our forced labor to match. We didn't have to put up cash. I bring it up because I think there's a creative way to do it. As I read, I think the town is actually offering that they can put it up. They can fund the money, but I don't know. We'd have to look at the quote legal mechanism and how do they do that? But if there's a way to do it properly, we can do it. But like I said, when we first visited it maybe 2 years ago, we knew they had to add transformers on the Prince Street tolls to get 3-phase, and we knew it was hugely expensive. So we put it off.
So Ed, I know we're proposing some parking at Abraham's Park.
On the side there, yeah.
At some point in time, would that be a possible location for this? So we wouldn't take up space. It's not centrally located in the village, but it may certainly help as far as during our parking, but it also may be activating part of that park a little bit more too.
In my mind, it's worth thinking about, but it's probably cost benefit. Would you spend $111,000 there versus here? You probably get more use here, I would think.
I ask, do we know how much they're used? Like how often they're the ones that we have are used?
I don't have hard data, McCorker, but they are, anecdotally, those cars are a lot. And there's probably a report they could run. I know the software, our deputy clerk has access to monitoring software. So there probably is some report they could run to get you that information.
That would actually be interesting to see the numbers, see the usage numbers over the past year or so. I mean, Mel Colker, I take advantage of the village charging stations, and it's a rare day if I show up and they're both in use, and I have to go home. But I mean, I think we need to think about this. I mean, it's the question of the need and then taking up the spaces in a rather valuable parking location. I'm all for charging opportunities and better, faster charging opportunities, but we need to figure it out.
What I could do is tomorrow, McCork, I could ask Greg if there's a report he can pull off. I'm here a lot during the hours, and I'm always amazed how many are using it. And we don't have any, I forget, the isolation, whatever the term is, where it's the combustion guys trying to jam the EV guy. It's never that. They're always the Priuses or something that's clearly electric supposed to be there. All right. Good. Charlie, I don't know if anything brewed on the NIPA conversion project. I know our friend Igor Nelson there somewhere with
Yes, I mean he's action and move the process along.
Could you reach out to him in the next week then? And is there a way to track him down? Do you get a break in your day, or I think I heard him on my voicemail. I was like, so. Anyway, Central Hudson Energy, I think that's it for Charles. Water, garbage. I think we hit all your points there. And let's see. With that, we can jump to Ms. Carwall. You want to go through? I know we saw some printed info, and you can talk about other things too.
Great. So I just did two reports this week, Red Hook Together and the Human Relations Committee. So for Red Hook Together, May's discussion theme was sustainability. And the moderator was Lori Husted, head of the Bard Office of Sustainability. She led an illustrative discussion about how the three spheres of sustainability, environment, equity, and economy, are all present and intertwined in Red Hook. A key discussion point was how the community leaders communicate out to the public and how we can better engage the community on issues overall. And then we had our first meeting of the Human Relations Committee. The Human Relations Committee had an initial brainstorming session on Thursday, May 7th, during which they discussed possible roles, organizational goals, and membership requirements. Present at the meeting were representatives from the Dutchess County Human Rights Commission, who gave additional insight into various roles and powers granted to similar committees within Dutchess and Ulster County. Members have agreed to do research on similar models to bring to next month's meeting for further discussion. That's it.
Thank you. I know, let's see, other hats we've asked her to wear. Let's see, on communications, I know we were trying to line something up with our offsite website admin person, Christopher. Did anything get relined up? I know last week we couldn't match, but
yeah, I haven't actually reached out. I will. It's been
that's okay. I'm not pushing on you. I just didn't know if
yeah,
I was missing something.
No.
And then library relations, like we said, Tivoli Library presented, but this year the Red Hook Library chose not to go out.
Mm-hmm.
414, I always forget the number, but the tax-based revenue, they're not looking for an increase this year on that. So that's why they were not on the call. Yeah, then parks and public art. I know.
Oh, am I supposed to do a report on that?
No,
Brett,
I'm not asking. I'm just trying to think where we're at.
We could flip on that.
Pardon me?
Okay.
We did have an initial meeting, and 3 of us attended, and we had some pretty good ideas. And right now we're selecting members to fill the committee. And I think we've all submitted some names for consideration. So that's hard at work. So there's multiple projects out there. We're trying to find multiple sources of revenue so we can implement some of these things. Not all about the money, but we also talked about how we best to engage the public in this process and in the benefit of arts throughout the community. So did I add anything, Melkorka, please?
No, it was a great initial meeting. Lots of ideas and hearing what had been done before. 2
things to plant in your minds was there might be a creative way, since we're talking about public art, with the American Rescue Plan money. I think we're going to draw maybe about half of our first allocation down for true COVID expenses and revenue shortfalls. But there might be something left that is half geared to help the business community recover from the impact. I think one could make an argument that some sort of public art event or something could be construed to be bringing visitors, bringing somebody into the village center. We could see today, Will Noonan and I were trying to get on. Apparently President Biden is opening a portal to get a little more data on how you actually get to channel into the money. But I was hoping to come in before I get to depart. But like we said, it's going to be 200 and something thousand divided by 2 years. So it's a good chunk of money. Just on celebrations, it's somewhat in that vein, but the intent is, in combination with economic development concepts of the village, to start this Friday, the Friday night music sessions, which is also geared to bring people, families, tourists to get to listen to some free music, and up across from Cipri's Grog Shop and Village Pizza there. The underlying goal is, order some takeout food and sit out there and enjoy it and keep cycling through the tables. So I think the weather's going to be okay, and that's supposed to kick off this weekend. Our Greg from our admin staff, one of the coordinators of it, and a lot of the funding comes from the Bayrite group. It's as you know, he's one of the prime landlords for the tenants there, so it's in everybody's good interest to have a good thing going on. So he'll be doing some promotion on his various means of advertising and communications. But we should all wander up at some point Friday night ourselves. All right, looks like we've done a lot of talking and we still haven't heard from Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk. So Brent, you ready to go?
Yes, sir, I am. I'll start with the Village Green Committee monthly reports. Balances finishing out this fiscal year for our related budget accounts are as follows: community beautification. I believe this is the number after we paid for the trees that we planted, $663.94. Shade tree contractual, $3,700. And that, again, we did cut some additional trees, did some additional pruning in the general business area. We did have an emergency takedown on the tree as well, so that all accounts for that. And our Village Green checking account is at $4,502.92. The Village Green Committee met on April 18th to locate trees on properties for the spring planting tree sites. And sites were prepared for spring planting. On April 23rd, Michelle Decker of Decker Construction volunteered to assist David Pearson to dig holes after New York Dig Safely was notified and underground utilities were marked. The 2021 annual Spring Planting Day and Arbor Day celebration was held on April 24th. 12 volunteers planted 8 trees on Fraley Street, Better Road, Old Post Road, Park Avenue, and at Richard Abrahams Memorial Park. A memorial tree was planted in Abrahams Park, dedicated to Harold and Gladys Fell for their years of community service and stewardship of Richard Abrahams Memorial Park. And I had the honor of reading the Arbor Day proclamation, which is one of the highlights of my year, and acknowledged the Village of Red Hook has received the Tree City USA designation for the 19th consecutive year. The Village Green Committee officers and the Board of Trustees would like to thank Michelle Decker for help in digging holes, our highway employee, Chris Kuhn, who filled in for Ed, who usually waters our trees, and the volunteers who contributed efforts to make the annual Spring Planting Day and Arbor Day celebration a success. And I must say, Mel Cork is...
I was just going to say that.
adorable. Mel Cork is still children help plant trees, and they came with spades and they were digging and vigorously planting trees. So it was nice to see multi-generations there. And residents and businesses interested in having a tree or trees planted on their adjacent right-of-ways, volunteering for planting days or making a donation to the Village Green Committee's various community beautification projects, may contact David Pearson, myself, or the village clerk. I'll move on to the highway report for April 2021. The initial brush and leaf pickup was concluded in the month of April. The Village Highway Department will continue to pick up leaves and brush on the first Monday of the month. And that's their schedule and weather permitting. The residents are reminded to place lawn debris and brush in separate piles, curbside and not in the road. And please limit brush piles to 1 per household per month, and limit the size of brush piles to 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. The tree branches no larger than 6 inches in diameter. And brush that includes tree trunks, stumps, garbage, or construction material will not be picked up. Neighbors are encouraged to share a brush pile if they're smaller. This will make pickup easier and quicker. Custom Street Services LLC has finished sweeping the village streets and the municipal parking lot in April. And the New York State DOT notified the Village of Red Hook on April 2nd that traffic signal generator transfer switches will be installed at the intersection of Route 9 at Rokeby Road and Hannaford Drive, not in the village, but in the town. But it may affect village traffic. Construction is anticipated to take place between the summer of 2021 and the winter of 2023. It's a broad spread there.
So.
Daily lane closures are anticipated as part of the construction activity. So I'm sure that we properly signed and will be notified. The village purchased the 2021 5 Dodge Ram from Rugies on April 26th. Costs were paid to the Salisbury Bank line of credit. Was that rectified, Ed? I know on the vouchers we signed, I tagged that one.
Yeah, I put a big tag on it. I would say yes. It's what Brent's getting at is we have paid Rugies for the vehicle, but Ray has to submit the CHIPS reimbursement. Right now, I explained to him there's no money in CHIPS till we get the reimbursement request in. So what it'll do to leave a net, I think it's about 17,000 is the money in the CHIPS part. Because what you're showing there is we paid for the plow separately so the net after the plow was about 17,000. So he's going to get the CHIPS filing done, and that'll sit on the line of credit. But the other budget lines look like we can tap them this year, like as planned in the resolution.
All right. So we are taking money. This is being leveraged by several accounts. There's the CHIPS funding, which Ed had talked about, maintenance of streets, highway capital outlay, highway CD reserve account, and the water fund balance, since this truck will be used for the water department. And this is based on our resolution number 17 of 2020. Revenue from the sale of scrap metal was received on April 5th in the amount of $669.94, and on April 14th in the amount of $167.20, for a total of $837.14. Total revenue generated from the sale of scrap metal in fiscal year 2021 is $4,832.19, almost $3,000 more than we had anticipated. So it's becoming a very good program. Since the scrap metal recycling program in September 2007, $36,292.31 has been generated. And as always, proceeds from this program go toward the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and materials management departments. Residents or businesses interested in donating scrap metal may contact the village highway department or the village clerk's office. And the highway department personnel will assist property owners in picking up scrap metal on request.
On the ground.
On the Red Hook infrastructure and intermunicipal task force monthly reports, very, very busy with the sewer. We could see the little daylight, and we're not approaching the end of the tunnel by any means, but we are making significant progress. Meetings were held on April 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th.
Thank you.
The telephone conference call and at the Red Hook Village building. Karen Smith has actually been participating in the last couple meetings we've been having, just to kind of gear her up with players and everything else, the process, and she's been very helpful and very, very thorough in her review of the documents. The bond resolution was approved by the Board of Trustees on April 1st and was sent to the Daily Freeman for publication on the 2nd of April. The resolution was also posted at 6 locations throughout the village, and the 20-day estoppel period ended on April 26th. We reviewed and completed a required funding application for the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and USDA Rural Development considerations. So we're all done with the applications. Our attorney also prepared the resolution to schedule a public hearing on the revised apportionment of local assessments for the municipal sewer system, phase 1. Resolution 12/2021 was approved by the village board on April 29th. The public hearing is set for May 17th. Notices have been out to the paper and also by certified mail to all the property owners in the sewer service area. I am not going to read all this stuff. There's a ton of information. If those who are interested in learning about the sewer, it would be in our, I guess, village website, and when we adopt the minutes. So this is a lot of work that has gone on. So May 17th, tune in. On the task force, both Charlie and I are members of the task force representing the village of Red Hook. The task force met on April 30th at the Red Hook Town Hall. The task force decided to send the latest versions of short-term rental amendments to the Red Hook Town Board for their consideration, review, seeker, and public comment processes. The following Red Hook Town amendments include Chapter 112, the short-term rentals annual operating permit, an amendment to the use table regarding the Town of Red Hook zoning law for residential accessory uses. Chairman Bill O'Neill was, with the approval of members of the task force, to recommend to the town board that they disband the task force, subject to being reinstated at a future date with specific goals in mind. Task force will still be in existence until the town passes or doesn't pass the STR regulations. And then draft legislation for short-term rentals in the town of Red Hook is now being prepared by the town attorney and the town planning. One more report. This is the shared services. So there were no meetings of the Town of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board, or the Northern Dutchess Alliance. All these committees I'm a member of. On the Community Preservation Fund, been seeing this balance go up for a while now, but the current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of April 30th, 2021, $1,099,615.32. So a lot of activity in the real estate market, and it is benefiting the CPF.
Hey, Brent, just to,
Yes,
you
sir.
broke up at least my connection. Could you say the dollar number again?
The dollar, yeah, the Community Preservation Fund balance as of April 30th is $2,099,615.32.
Thanks.
The Saltkill Watershed Community, there was no meetings held by the community. Issue 16 of April 21st of the Saltkill Watershed newsletter was circulated, and the issue included Earth Day 2021, Project Drawdown, Amphibian Migration Project, and Earth Day media events, including the Bard College Environmental Studies Program and the Racial Justice Initiative sponsored Earth Day panel, and that was on April 22nd. The Town of Red Hook Local Revitalization Program, or the LWRP Working Group, actually no meetings were held, and we are still waiting on the New York State Department of State to review our proposals. Once that has been sent back to the working group and amended accordingly, a public informational meeting for the Red Hook community will be scheduled to present current proposed amendments of the local waterfront revitalization plan, the Town of Red Hook. In the Village of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, I know our attorney is working on legislation for that and the secret documents, and also the 239M, which is a process of sending our amendments to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for their review and comment. So there's quite a bit of work on that, and we were hoping to have that by May, by today. But because of the work on the sewer, it's been postponed slightly. So we're hoping in June that we'll have the amendments and we can act on and have a public hearing on the seeker component. That's all I have, Ed.
Thank you, Brent. Yeah, we'll keep, if the board wants to keep some of his sewer notes from the one of his pages of monthly reports, when we get into another agenda item here, we can refer back to that if we have to. Good, we've heard from the various department and committee reports. We could move into regular business. Maybe before I forget it, we should just do a motion to set that next public hearing on the fire contract. I gave myself a note here. Looks like June 7 would be first Monday, June 14, second Monday.
June 14th, Ed?
Yeah, it looks like 6/14.
And that's pending the contract, right? That we have a contract to review?
Yeah, it's, I think, as you all recall, the contract deals with certain other numbers of dollars and commitments on that aspect. But there were some ancillary things that are part of the discussion too. But I don't think. Well, we know they're not contractual items or components of the contract. but we'll do, even though I reminded them to get the contract consideration back to us, we don't have it as of tonight, like I said. So yeah, it'll be a contract grant. But just like I said, those other components would be for other board discussions. They're not necessarily part of the public hearing. So I'd move that we take the postponed public hearing to deal with the fire protection contract from today and reschedule it for June 14th, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? I'll call for roll call just so we have it. Blundell, yes. Kowalczyk,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Carval,
Yes.
and Lang.
Yes.
Thank you. So Larry, you have that?
Yes.
Just have to get that. You don't
Yep.
vote. Good. I'll check that off. Let's see. So sewer update. I just want to remind us, we touched on it earlier, but on Monday from tonight, we have a public hearing. And I'd just like to get a little idea how to best do it. We wrote to approximately, it's somewhere near 100 folks in that sewer service area. There's 135 properties, but some of them are owned by the same owner. And one of the big owners is Knollwood Commons. Whatever the number of units is in there, it's really one property owner is going to come in. But so we could have a good sizable crowd. And we do have the engineer lined up to give a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. The logic of it is that we're required to do this by the rules and regulations of having a sewer law and a sewer service area and so forth, and to get funding. So essentially what we're doing is we'll be explaining how we went to bid 5 years after the project was estimated or projected costs were set, and where we ended up and how we've acted to work with that. And that's what we circulated in the new map plan and report. And we do now have here in your hard mailboxes the new physical paper map plan and report. It is also up on our website. The reason I'm bringing it up now, as is the custom here in the village, if you're out on the street and you run into your elected folks here, well, wrong word, if you as elected folks run into your constituents, you might get questioned, and the underlying position is that we still feel it's economically necessary and environmentally necessary, and that we've looked at the costs and found that 0% interest funding, and we've done the bond resolution, different things. We hope to go and award the project in the near future, meaning also at the Monday meeting. And we've done everything possible so far to hold the cost, and that will continue that effort, meaning the funding agencies, and we've stated this once before, but just to remind you all, they will allow us, if we find some more sources of funding, to roll that into the equation and knock down the borrow amount at the end of the project. So that's really good for everybody. And we, that'll continue. We're looking at that. It's RD, that's the federal agency, has indicated there's maybe 500 or 600 grand somewhere out there. It's not committed yet. Like I mentioned, and I apologize if we've had this conversation, but we're also looking at lobbying assembly members and state senators and congresspersons and anybody else that might have some juice to get us a little more grant. We're looking for grant money. We've got the best possible 0% plan you can get, but we need some more grant money.
And we've currently got two big grants, 1.2 million from USDA and 925,000 from the WIA grant, which is the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act from New York State, administered by the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. And that's where we're getting our 0% short-term and long-term funding. And we've been working with them, and they've acknowledged and kind of, as Ed said, if we did get any grants, they would knock that off the loan amount. So that's a process, and we're still looking, and we'll always look for more money. So we know it's a project, but it's so important for this village to move forward in the future. So
just to frame the meeting for Monday, next Monday, we'll have the engineer available via Ring Central Zoom with a shared screen. I'll probably give some overview, a little more specific than what I just gave you folks, and then Brent, we'll tag team it like we did. Essentially, we have to remind them all that it still makes total sense. one thing I might throw in, we had our own septic issues here at Village Hall the past week, but we're on a twice-a-year pumping schedule anyway for our septic because we're like all these other businesses. We have no room for a leach field. We have to do our own pumping more often than a private owner would have had a real true septic field, and that costs us $600 a year. So to me, that's a baseline. I'm sure a lot of these commercial buildings are even spending more than that a year on their own individual needs between grease traps and multiple septic pumps per year. So it's a little bit of a rationalization, but it's also, I think, a correct recap of what costs they do face, and our system will take that burden off them once we're built. So that's one of our sales pitches and has been from day one. But we'll just have to remind them because it's always shocking for them to hear the price has gone up. And, but that's what we'll do. Let's see, I had here water loop update, but it's really more of a water system update. On the water loop, I'll be picking up fully executed contracts and events this week, but we have that project going to run the cycle, the full circle of water down south on Route 9 in through Traditions and back up. And the board members are fully aware of it and the need and the basis underlying it. We will get more customers and we'll give them a better source supply option, meaning 2 sources of feed versus 1 through Reddick Estates. We do promise in our agreement that we will provide any necessary traffic control, but right now it's all directional drilling off the right-of-ways, even so there's not going to be lane closures or blockages or anything like that. But I have reminded highway and police that we might need to send somebody down there. But to refresh folks' memory, the projects are engineered, paid for, built by the private property owners, backed us, and in today's voucher pack, there are some legal costs that we incurred that we have to send off to escrow for the project, as well as, I think it was around $1,000 or $1,500 or something for some bills we have to pay. But and it's all been reviewed and approved by our village engineers too. It's not an independent project. So that'll be exciting to get that in the ground, and that'll be underway. One thing we might have seen we're circulating some information between our water operator and ourselves, one on a direct functional level and one I want to talk about on a higher level. This month, we are due to push out our annual water quality report, otherwise known by the acronym AWQR. We did see it come out of our operators' folders off to the Department of Health. They usually give it a little review, and if they pick anything apart, they get back to the operators. And then we have to circulate it out to our public. So it looks like we're pretty much on schedule to get that done. It's the annual basis one that tests for the routine chemicals, and maybe some board members could chime in. Have we circulated the draft version out? I think we did, but I'm not totally sure. I know I was communicating it off to operators.
I don't think I got the draft. I got a list from Fernando of some repairs that are required by DOH, but as far as the
yeah, no, this is
report.
This is that routine AWQR that we see, test copper, lead, salt, sodium rather, and so forth. But yeah, what I can do is the draft version, like I said, went off to DOH, our friend Ron Miller down there, and he gets to give it a final review. Then we'll circulate it out and get it going. But something we also have to have it in our heads, the deadline. It's something that the rules say we have to circulate to our public. The next thing on here is related to my retirement and transition, and then a proclamation for Mayor Blundell and Jennifer Norris. Why don't we do the business side of it first? Like I mentioned earlier, I think the board selection was awesome to pick Karen Smythe, and I was happy to see that was the outcome. And we've sat multiple hours already, Karen and I, ranging from showing her the blue collar versions of what a mayor does, looking around the building, and to higher level more admin and white collar things we do. And she's really picking up. And I think the most amazing thing for me is the fortuity of it. It's, you know, she comes from a construction management, construction company background, and we're moving into the biggest construction project the village has seen. We've done some 5 millions, but they were a 1.2 and a 3 point something combined to make 5. This is all by itself an 8.5. So going to be a lot of fun, a lot of work, and she's up for it. We know that, and I think it's great that she also has the commitment and the time to do it. So welcome again, Karen, and board. Great pick. Like we said, she's working hard already, and I guess kind of volunteering, so to speak. It's sort of a segue into where we're going to go. I tendered my actual formal resignation letter from 12:01 on 21 May. I misspoke, 12 noon, 21 May, and then Ms. Peters would come in. Ms. would come in at right after that, in formal full mayoral authority. But I do think the board should consider addition office, so to speak, where I have some availability, and what Karen and I are working on with our IT company, but we need your input too. Some way to roll I use the Gmail at the village, and it's under my initials, initial E. Blundell, not a mayor title. I'm trying to see if we have an existing mayor Gmail, and then mine would roll to her, so I can disassociate, and she would get any communications coming to me automatically. And then if the mayor or any board member had a question, create for me some other active email that, if they so choose to send it to me, I consult or clue where to look or what the issue is. But I don't see that going on forever, but I think the overall good of the village and all the work we've done, I know it's going to be successful, but that's what we're offering. I think Karen and I, we traded some emails today with the IT company. They're like one step removed from us if there's trouble. Well, not in a negative sense, but it's a little difficult sometimes. They take what they call tickets to technicians, and technicians do some things, and it seems like it's a little one step removed from us being able to talk to somebody. But she and I will be working together next several days this week and into next week, of course. And then, but that's one of our projects, get that thing so it's a rollover of some sort. And I also want to get all the trustees in the habit and of using the village's underlying Gmail account, which would be good for just keeping it all on our servers and everything. That's the one reason I do that. So anyway, then in the celebratory side of things, we had last Saturday, some of our supporters and friends put together a real nice event for me and my wife, Mary Lisa, who's also moving with me, of course, to the Boston area. And she was real active in the library. I really appreciate it. It was great fun. It was a little bit funky weather. It was like an Irish kind of misty day, but it worked. And we took home some great proclamations, and it was really some great music. We had Murali Coriel and the Basement Boys played and did our thing. But I think, Brent, you had a proclamation here for Jennifer Norris, who was up there, and she kind of quietly left the board here 6 weeks ago, whatever. And
yeah, I don't know if you wanted to do this, Ed. It's under your name since you're still the mayor on Jen Norris, but I could read it for you.
Yeah, if you've got it there, sir, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I could do that. The proclamation recognizing Jennifer Norris, trustee, Village of Red Hook, whereas a community is only as great as those citizens who give exemplary service, whether through participation in elected office, volunteer boards, or sharing unique personal skills. And whereas such service by those who choose to give their time and commitment to public service enhance and improve the lives of those in the community in which they serve. And whereas Jennifer Norris, our colleague, has given her service to our community as trustee for the Village of Red Hook, and by serving on the Hardscrabble Committee, and always promoted the right steps forward for Red Hook. Whereas Jen Norris worked to make Red Hook a better place and is respected by residents and elected leader. Therefore, be it resolved, I do hereby proclaim that we recognize Jennifer Norris for her commitment and dedicated service to the community. Her service benefited the Village of Red Hook and all its residents. On behalf of the Village of Red Hook, we extend our sincere appreciation and wish her all the best in future endeavors. And we'll
Thank you.
have
I'll
stamped
sign-
and signed and send it to her.
We'll sign it Friday and get her over here. She popped into the Saturday and she's up there. Looks like her daughter's off to college, but just Jen's go around and do a few things, but we'll see what's up.
And we do have another proclamation for Mr. Ed
Oh, yeah,
Blundell.
who's that guy? I know Brent gave me one we up at the sound stage and at the event, but you got another one? All right. I'll sit back and
Well,
enjoy.
that I just winged that one. This is formal.
Good job.
Thank you. Whereas community is only as great as those citizens who give exemplary service, whether through participation in elected office, volunteer boards, or sharing knowledge and personal skills. Whereas Mayor Ed Blundell has become a leading figure within the community through his years of service as both trustee and mayor, and has given both creative and thoughtful effort to maintain an effective balance between growth and a respect for the existing community. And whereas Edward Blundell has distinguished himself as a hardworking and dedicated public servant at all times, committed to helping his community, and has provided invaluable leadership and guidance on many significant projects. And whereas during his service, Ed Blundell managed successfully converted ideas and visions in promoting the right steps to better the village of Red Hook, and took great pride in the village's fiscal management, village infrastructure, and village infrastructure projects. Ed Blundell took great pride in serving on many village committees, some of his favorites being the Hardscrabble Committee and providing Friday night music to residents during the COVID era. And whereas Ed Blundell has provided courteous and comprehensive help to village officials, member of the public, and the village staff, and is recognized as being steady, dependable, and one that takes great pride in his work and in his community. And whereas Ed Blundell has built cooperative relationships with residents, other government organizations, community groups, and members of the community. And whereas the level of commitment and service brought by Mayor Ed Blundell will forever be the benchmark for future efforts to grow and sustain a solid, vibrant base that will allow the village not only to prepare for the future, but to fully embrace the future. And whereas after all his successes has decided to retire from his position as mayor and to enjoy a well-deserved retirement that will be marked by more time spent with his family and friends. Now, therefore, it be resolved that on behalf of myself and the trustees of the Village of Red Hook, we recognize Ed Blundell for his service and commitment, and do hereby celebrate his achievements and years of service as both trustee and mayor of the Village of Red Hook, and thankfully and gratefully extend our most sincere best wishes on your retirement on May 21st, 2021, and all future endeavors.
Thank you, Brent.
Here. Hey.
Thanks, I appreciate that. It was a little than the one he said at the other day, but I could tell it was heartfelt. I feel it. Something I said at the tent up there too is I brought a whimsical thing. You know how when you're closing up and downsing a house and headed for the next adventure, across a lot of my old D files from back in the day, Brent, 2006, 7, 8. And I was going to bring some in, like this time of year, the budget balance would be like $30,000, and like, whoa. And what is really like 440,000 to make it 440 million, but that, but I also found a news clipping which is kind of pertinent to McCorkin's newly elected. It was it's a picture of me here coming out of the lever operation. And it was news. In 2005, this was newcomer Blundell in. It was like
It was back when we had a newspaper, right?
It was like, but it's so funny. Like to me, the word newcomer. It was like, it's like, but it's been ongoing. It's the upstate New York joke. Like, what's a newcomer? What's who's the old world, the right world, the accepted world? But we need newcomers, and hence we need retirements. So it's a good thing. But I appreciate.
And I also like to thank Lara for all of her help with these proclamations. It's fantastic work. And
yeah, good. And what I did too was, and I mean it seriously, like up at the main event the other day. I thanked our staff. You know, we've gone through a lot together, whether it be Lara, Patrick, the different folks that have been here a long time, Brent, and one cannot do this alone, of course, and Brent and some other board members and I were like a three-headed one person for many times. You know, it was like we could talk and bang each other up, beat each other up, find the right answer and move on, you know. And that was unbelievably cool. It was like we had something that really worked. You know, to work in the quote newcomers is the task of the next mayor. But that's what I'd like to convey is when we invented those more open forum workshops and the Fridays, we used to call them brainstorming sessions. We would welcome any idea, any concept, and see if it stuck to the wall. If it made sense, we'd start to pursue it. If it didn't, we'd say that was really dumb and move on. You know, and that was the sense I'd like to convey is just, hey guys, we're collegial. And what I said up there, I meant was we look for policy. We're not really looking for politics. It's, you know, something either makes sense or it doesn't. And if we can find a way to fund it, do it. And one of our key things has been trying to find funding, and we just wish we were a richer municipality, but we have to look at what we can do, the share services, services. But I still think core energy of the village is worth maintaining going forward. And there's some really great people out there on the board and in the circles that immediately circle us with staff, and then around active residents, and they keep spinning out. And the task is just to keep them all in somehow. And I think with the newer technology and newer ideas, keep them pulled to the circle and keep it all going. But thanks so much to all of you on that part. We could do it on the May 17th. I'll remind you again, we'll need you all there. Brent and I have done a few of these in the analog world. We'll have to do it in the virtual world, looks like. I had a goal here to activate committees, but to be here in the meeting, Malcolm, sounds like the newer committees have started to activate already, which is good. And then, you know, with all committees, we have the liaison and so forth, so they'll report in like happened tonight. That was great. And then one bigger picture item, Karen touched on a little bit before the research she was doing, but with COVID-19 vaccinations and then reopening and village functions, somehow we have to keep staff and our residents that herd immunity in and around rec, and the national government, the local village, I think, are setting that goal. I think Dutchess County is somewhere around 40% right now as far as vaccinations, but we need it there. So I don't know what we can do. Put a message out there somehow, and the switches, the board can go back to I keep calling analog meetings, but village functions and reopening are going to be probably a couple of big decisions you'll have to make. Have safe pressure on them to be not victim of people not being vaccinated, and but we have maintained function. But I think going back to open meetings and some hybrid, Karen and I were talking about, I think the rest of the board would concur, if we could somehow keep some version of an in-house meeting plus a computer running somewhere looking across at the meeting at the same time, get the technology to work. That would be really awesome, because I think there's much more participation we can get. Like even tonight, I show 11 participants, which is bigger than a lot of our meetings are. But I think we've touched on the necessary and the things we had to do. I see boxes checked. I had put executive session if we needed it, but I don't see the need. And I find them difficult with Panda recording us and trying to break off and get the Panda recording going back on. I had nothing in particular. I can be generic. I can say that we have sat down with the police and the highway folks. Those are ongoing talks, but they're consistent with the offers we made. They're consistent with a prior executive session we were in. And you could individually talk to me if you want, but we have things in front of Labor Council and different things. But rather not talk too much in detail about it, but we could talk individually a little bit. And then if we get to analog, I just think the negotiations, they're not going to result in contracts by June 1. There's no way. And then I think most of these higher level executive sessions, they're so much better if you can do a COVID safe. It's just going to be the boards somehow look at documents, look and talk with material in front of you, and bang ideas off each other. But we've got it pretty much framed out where we need to be with it. But it's not gonna. It's only 3 weeks away to the end of the month. It's just not can't happen. Legal has to look at it and different things. So, but we have to keep up the effort, and we do. Like I tell even the union reps, I am a pro-labor mayor, and we try to do the best we can. But we're also a small village. We don't have a lot of assets we can tap in. We have a tax cap, and that's the message we convey all the time. But anyway, I would open up to public comment. Is there anybody out there listening that has public comment or I don't think we've heard from a board member who might want to say something, but why don't we let the board go first? Any issues, comments, and then we'll flip over to public. All right, so I don't hear any board members speaking. Everybody good? Anybody from the general public that's out there? Well, good. Thank you for coming, everybody. And it's not my last meeting, but it's my last real broad purposed one. And I think
I should probably, this is Karen. I just want to say thank you publicly for all of your time and sharing and taking all my questions. I really appreciate it. And I certainly hope that I can fill a small part of the shoes that you have done here in Red Hook, and hope to carry all that good work on. So thank you.
Thank you. And the good point perspective is I think you will. And usually my gut feeling is pretty good. So I think it's gonna be great. And then let's see, we all have signed the vouchers, I noticed. So I would make a motion with Karen, this is something we have to do at the end of each meeting for some technical approval. We have to move that we pay the bills after audit, and I would move in that regard. Is there a second?
Second.
And just to be street legal, Blundell, yes. Carval, how do you vote?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
Lang?
Yes.
Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Okay. And with that, Brent, I think looking at the bottom of the page, it says adjourn meeting. Are you in the mood?
I am in the mood, and I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
Good, I would second that, and I don't think we need a roll call vote on that. You could raise your hands if you're in agreement. And good night, everybody, and we'll talk Monday more and see you on the streets. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.